The rack. The rack was a gruesome device used to dislocate joints and stretch the body. Victims were tied to a wooden frame, and rollers at either end pulled their limbs in opposite directions. As the wheels turned, the ropes tightened, slowly stretching the victim's body and causing excruciating pain. The intense pressure could dislocate joints and even tear limbs from the body. This device was often used to extract confessions or punish those accused of serious crimes, with some mentions of similar devices dating back to ancient times. The Iron Maiden. The Iron Maiden was a coffin-like device lined with spikes, supposedly used primarily in Germany during the medieval period. Victims were placed inside the upright sarcophagus, and the door was closed, driving the spikes into their body. These spikes were carefully positioned to pierce non-vital organs, inflicting maximum pain without causing immediate death. This method ensured prolonged suffering, as the victim was left to bleed slowly. The psychological terror of being enclosed in this spiked chamber was as potent as the physical pain, making the Iron Maiden a notorious symbol of medieval cruelty. The Brazen Bull, also known as the Bull of Phalaris, or the Sicilian Bull, was an ancient Greek torture and execution device. It was a hollow bronze statue shaped like a bull, with a door on the side. Victims were locked inside, and a fire was lit beneath the bull, heating the metal and roasting the person inside. The bull was designed with acoustic tubes that converted the victim's screams into sounds resembling a bull's bellowing. This gruesome method was not only a form of execution, but also a public spectacle, demonstrating the power and ruthlessness of the authorities. The Judas Cradle. The Judas Cradle was a horrific torture device used during the Spanish Inquisition. Victims were hoisted above a pointed, pyramid-shaped seat and lowered onto it, often with weights attached to their legs to increase the pressure. The goal was to slowly impale the victim through their orifices, causing severe pain and humiliation. This method was designed to break the spirit of the victim, often used to punish heretics and traitors. The prolonged and excruciating nature of the torture made the Judas Cradle one of the most feared devices of its time. The Pear of Anguish. The Pear of Anguish was a metal device shaped like a pear, with segments that expanded via a screw mechanism. It was typically inserted into the victim's orifices. Once in place, the torturer would turn the screw, causing the pear to expand and inflict severe internal damage. This device was supposedly used to punish liars, blasphemers, and those accused of sexual crimes, although the existence and use of the device in the medieval period is still debated. The Scavenger's Daughter, also known as a stork, was a compression device invented in the 16th century by Sir Leonard Skevington, Lieutenant of the Tower of London. Victims were forced into a crouching position within a metal frame that compressed their body. As the frame tightened, it caused extreme pain by crushing the torso, leading to broken bones, internal bleeding, and in some cases, suffocation. Unlike the rack, which stretched the body, the Scavenger's Daughter compressed it. This device was often used on those accused of treason or heresy, ensuring a painful and lingering punishment. The breaking wheel, also known as the Catherine wheel, was a brutal execution device used across Europe. Victims were tied to a large wheel, and executioners used hammers or iron bars to shatter their limbs. The broken bodies were then woven through the spokes of the wheel and left to die slowly, often in public view. This method served as both a punishment and a deterrent, showcasing the consequences of serious crimes such as murder or treason. The prolonged agony and public nature of this execution made the breaking wheel one of the most feared forms of capital punishment. The Heretic's Fork. The Heretic's Fork was a simple yet effective device used during the Inquisition to punish heretics. It consisted of a double-pronged fork, with one end placed under the chin and the other against the sternum. The device prevented any head movement, causing immense discomfort and pain. It was often used to force confessions, or as a means of punishment for those accused of heresy. The chair of torture, also known as the iron chair, was a chair covered with spikes on the seat, back, armrests, and footrest. Victims were strapped into the chair, and the spikes pierced their flesh. The torturer could tighten the straps, increasing the pressure and driving the spikes deeper. Sometimes the chair was heated to intensify the pain. The Spanish donkey, also known as the wooden horse, was a torture device where the victim was forced to sit on a sharp, triangular wooden board, resembling a horse's back. Weights were often attached to the victim's feet, increasing the pressure and causing severe pain. The device was designed to slowly cut through the victim's body, causing excruciating pain and potential long-term damage. This method was often used to punish prisoners or extract confessions. The thumbscrew was a small yet painful device used to crush the thumbs or fingers. It consisted of a metal vise with sharp, ridged jaws. The victim's fingers or thumbs were placed inside, and the screw was tightened, causing severe pain and often breaking the bones. This device was commonly used to extract confessions or as a preliminary torture before more severe methods. Its simplicity and effectiveness made it a popular tool among medieval torturers. The Strappado. The Strappado was a form of suspension torture, mainly used during the Inquisition in the 15th and 16th centuries. Victims' hands were tied behind their backs, and they were hoisted into the air by a rope attached to their wrists. The sudden drop and subsequent suspension caused excruciating pain, dislocating shoulders and tearing ligaments. Sometimes weights were added to the victim's feet to increase the agony. The boot, also known as the Spanish boot, was a device used to crush the feet and legs, particularly in the late medieval and early modern periods, around the 15th to 17th centuries. Victims' legs were placed inside a pair of iron boots, and wedges were hammered between the boots and the victim's flesh. This caused excruciating pain, often leading to shattered bones and permanent disability. In some versions, the boots were heated to intensify the torture. The garrote. The garrote was a device used for execution and torture, primarily in Spain and its colonies. The victim was seated, and a metal collar was placed around their neck. A screw was tightened from behind, gradually crushing the victim's throat and neck, leading to asphyxiation or spinal damage. The garrote was often used for capital punishment, and its slow, painful method of execution made it a feared tool of justice well into the 19th century. The coffin, also known as the Gibbet Cage, was a metal cage shaped to fit the human body. Victims were locked inside and left to hang from a gallows or tree. Exposed to the elements and often denied food and water, they would suffer a slow and agonizing death. The coffin was used both as a punishment and a deterrent, with the bodies of the deceased left on display as a warning to others. The pillory. The pillory was a wooden framework with holes for securing the head and hands, used from medieval times through the early modern period, particularly in Europe from the 12th to 18th centuries. Victims were locked in the pillory and exposed to public ridicule, abuse, and assault. This method was used to punish minor crimes, with the public encouraged to throw rotten food or stones at the condemned. The pillory served both as a punishment and a public spectacle, reinforcing social order through humiliation and physical discomfort.